Oh, that's what we're gonna work on. Yeah. Okay. Hey guys. It's Monday morning. Welcome back. No. Yeah, it's Monday morning. Welcome back. I'm getting lost. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online. And we're making an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. We'll be publishing on the DMsGuild. Let me check my signal here and make sure that we're up and running. I feel out of sorts this morning. Mic check. Hey, whoa, that's rich. Cool, sounds good. Coming through clear. I'm going to grab this link here, and it's going to take a moment here for me to get things fired up. And okay, so now I'm doing social media posts, which is probably how you're going to find out that I'm streaming in the first place. So, my schedule, I'm on vacation this week for my full-time job. So, I'll be working till 8:30 this morning, and then I need to do some work around the house. So like 8:30 will be like an hour and a half from now. We'll do some work around the house. I think I'll be back on at 11 o'clock to work on the Bastion Campaigns book a bit more. And then by 2 o'clock, I'll be dipping for the rest of the day to prep for the Martial Powers playtest that we run Monday nights at 5:30 Pacific time. And so I'll log out and start prepping for that. I am building out 2 zones. I'm trying to build out 2 zones for every zone the team explores, so that I can perpetually stay ahead of them. And then construct the actual dungeon, and then start dropping monsters in as they get closer to be able to see how the adventure is flowing, to see what makes sense. Like they back off so the monsters can fill back in, they backfill from a lower levels, or something narrative comes up in the game that changes how the dungeon would react to what they're doing. So I need to put in different things, whatever. Anyway, hey, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Thanks a lot, subscribers. Really appreciate you. We just got over 500, I think, last week. Here's the full playlist of all 381 episodes, and so let's just get into work. So this is the book cover we made around episode 40. We're working on the texturing for this tree right now, so we're going to continue working on that today. And then when we come back and we work on the Bastion system some more, we will be working on complications, or complications. We start organizing the complications into different groupings. We're going to continue with that effort. The other major task I have with that system right now is parsing out all of the things in the player's handbook that can be made. So that music is super loud today. Hold on. I use epidemic music, and it's just a little... There. Which is it's excessive, but it feels appropriate and thorough. If you're building a simulator that can determine where and how you can create each item in the game, then you should really list each item in the game, and then from there, obviously DMs that they create their own things can take. What is going on? Photoshop crashed on me. That's the second time now that Photoshop has crashed on me during stream. And it dumped my my open recent history as well. Yeah, it just completely dumped that session. God, that's so crazy. All right, let's go to the crystals, and then artwork and production, and page 88 to 103. Man, that's really disappointing. All right, well, luckily we only just gotten into it, but that's I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, tree making bark texture is really fun. You just take a this is a 100% smudge brush. So I just put I put the dollops of color on, and the tool that we're using for the brush is this chisel that I have. Usually I use it for like doing snowy scenes and making like little like mountainside textures, but it also works really well for bark. So we take that shape and we drop it into we're working on the shadow. So, and this is a viewed from below shot. So here like that. The more shadow I have on the branch underneath, the more it is convincing that this guy is looking down. So we're adding these shadows here like that. And then we take the smudge brush, which is the same brush. It's 100% strength, so it retains 100% of the pixel information that it is dragging with it 100% of the time. So like you can just make a beam like that. So I can grab and sidewise like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a window wiper, right? A Ouija. Thank you. Is that it? Yeah. I think so. Anyway, so you have that Ouija effect, and then from this side you have this chiseling effect. So I can break things apart I can break things apart like that and pull them around like this, and it creates texture. Really, really fun process because I just get to push I'm basically just pushing the paint. It's like getting rid of creases and folds. Wrinkles. So getting rid of folds and wrinkles in fabric by basically like smoothing it out across the table. This has a similarly satisfying tactile feel to the process. Because I'm using a Wacom tablet, so I'm pushing the material down the branch while we're doing this. So it's sculpting with paint right now, kind of. It's a really fun process. I love making trees like this. It's really great. And it's been, I'm trying to explore. I'm starting to think about, hey, how you doing? Oh, what's up, Don? Monday movie readings, what up? Hope you're having a good day. It just started for me. I'm in Seattle. It's 7 a.m. here in Seattle. Spent time with the family over the weekend. That was great. I did not have nearly as much couch time as I had anticipated I would have to start parsing out the list of items in the player's handbook into the different facilities of bastions where they can be made. But it was time well spent. It was time well spent. There. And I can dive infinitely into detail here. There is no limit. There's no limit to how much texture and attention to detail you can give here. So, but I want to make sure here like that, and then we're here. These won't require a lot of effort right now. So there's a disconnect between the line art, the base color painting, and the texturing that shading that I'm doing right now along these branches here. You can see that. That's because once I get the shadow and highlights for these branches and just body it, like once the bark is done, I'll fuse it all into a single layer, and then similarly manipulate it. So I want to make sure I can just, I'm painting it all on in separate layers because I use this smudging process to actually sculpt the shape of the bark. So I have to leave those as separate layers. But once they're bonded in, I can come through and just like meticulously trim at the edges to clean up the form overall and fuse the line art into the color. And the line art is on top of the color layer. So that becomes an additional layer of grit and like a deeper fold into the tree that that'll just add to the visual texture of the tree. So I do that with all my processes. Boy, I'm wordsmithing bad today. Wordsmith no good. My computer box. Oh wait, we'll push that up like that because this is all going to be in shadow once we get the leaves, the foliage, and canopy into place. So there, that feels good. I'm gonna chop that up a bit. Then I can take an eraser as well and carve away at bits where I want to free up space again. They're all using the same brush shape, so there's a consistency in the texturing. In the negative and positive space. So that fakes a sort of, the base color becomes like a mid-tone highlight, like almost like a highlight where it's catching light differently. Obviously, that's why you would have shadow, base colors, and highlights. I just feel off today. I feel off. So yeah, in about a little less than, maybe a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more than 4 hours from now, I'll jump back on and work on Bastions a bit. Working on how to group complications with different type of orders that are issued. Now that we have established the different type of items that can be made with each facility, we can start differentiating between different types of successes and failures. We know what successes look like because those are the die rolls, and we have, you hit this DC, you can produce this thing, or if you want to produce this thing, it requires that DC. Same idea, worded differently. It's interesting. Like you can have open roll, like in the with my home team that I play D&D with each week. I have the playtest team, and then which is at in the evenings on Monday nights, like tonight, and then I have my actual home table, which are who I just play with for entertainment and camaraderie. What was I bringing them up for? I have game today with them. They're coworkers, so I have game with them today. So I'll be able to work the Bastion system, and then I have a game with them at 2:00 here Seattle time, and then it's our once a week luncheon game. It's great. We have about an hour of game to play each week, so the game system is very, very efficient. We have anywhere from 3 to 5 players at the table at any given time, and we have learned how to just move through a session. So I have a really aggressive pace of DMing where I'm always asking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Resolving it quickly, accumulating a number of tasks from the team, and then have them all roll at the same time. So it's kind of like, this is like a team turn that we're taking. So all the stuff that you guys want to do, just pile up those tasks, and then we'll just roll out and resolve how they happen, and then be able to move on to like the next scene of the story. Like there's nothing left to do here. Let's just move on. So where you go next, that sort of stuff. So one more moment. I want to grab a highlight layer. And that's my highlight that we're using right there. Yeah. See, I can just layer this additional this highlight texture can now go over these little undefined blocks that I have here in the bark. There we go. I don't have to do anything too grandiose with it. There we go. Well, this highlights the further away from the trunk we get. Because that's where the lighting starts to, the leaves and the canopy starts to dip and get closer to the trees out in the limbs. like here towards the base of the trunk, there's a lot of leaf density over the limbs, but the background is going to have sunlit leaves that will have varying depths of. Well, hold on. There. So that's what we're looking at. So I want to have highlights dotting along the top of the branches so that we can be sure to distinguish in lighting between the two. And this tree is a lot more pale than the foliage, so I need to add in. I'm fine with just that little smattering of highlights. That feels okay to me right now. I can tack on more later if I need, but what I do feel like I need to do is darken these shadows because I feel they're out of balance with the foliage. Hey, what's up? You're on group initiative for combat to make that faster. Also give people more bending of rules a bit to do cool stuff if two players get the same. Oh, fun! When they have the same initiative score, they can combo their stuff together. That's cool. That's really great. You run a more light action economy system like BECME or like Dungeon Crawl Classics, or are you doing high action economy like Pathfinder or D&D 5e? That's starting to feel better. Nice. 2014. Oh, okay, got it. But then I homebrew some parts out that are just jog it down. Right on. 5e is a great system, man. You can just change it. It's so easy to just add in new mechanics, new concepts. It's such a modular, simple mechanical game. It lets you screw around with stuff a lot, and express it like you can, group initiative, acting that way, and having everyone act at once, and then if you happen to roll, so everyone goes on the same side, but then you have your initiative order of who goes when inside of that round of combat. Like your team one, who goes first? Is that how the initiative resolves? And that's why, if two people roll the same initiative number inside of their turn, they can combo stuff together. That's how I run Spelljammer combat, by the way. It's assumed that everyone has their own initiative order that can interlace with other. What's the words I want to use? Each ship has its own group of initiative. So if you have like 3 ballista teams on a ship, you roll initiative, and then you can have those. Then you order which way you want the players just decide which sequence they want the ballistas to go in. And each character has their own initiative, so you can lend your action economy to somebody else during their turn before it's your turn to help them operate their siege machine. And when it gets to your turn, whatever action economy you have left over, you go ahead and do what you want to do. And if anyone further down initiative order wants to contribute actions for you, like I'm gonna give you my bonus action and one of my attacks to make sure that you can get that trebuchet loaded up in time and fired off. And when it comes around to my initiative, now all I have left over is one attack and my movement, but my reaction is still open. So it's detailed. It's more granular detail than what normal 5e is, but the team is basically functioning as a single creature while they're doing that, both making ranged siege weapon attacks with their ship attacking another ship. And then if people are boarding each other, then individual characters actually engaging with individual creatures from the enemy ship. So you have potentially scaling action economy happening at different levels of map, but it's still just the amount of action economy your characters normally have. You're just exploring it at different scales of combat at the same time. So it's more technically intricate, but if you're only having maybe like 1 or 2 ship combats per session, then it feels like 2, because if they board you, it feels like 2 because you're operating at these 2 different levels at the same time. But if it's just ship-to-ship combat, then it actually resolves kind of, I would say, probably at a clip of 4E. 4E is faster than 5E, but it was slower than Beckme. So I think I'd put it somewhere inside of that action economy overall. But yeah, being able to combo with each other and do stuff, that's super cool. Yeah. Yeah, and then the DM can do combo stuff. Like the DM then can have, like if I want to have a group of orcs attack at the same time, I can like give them a, like I keep missing by 1 or 2, so I'm gonna have them start working together. I'll give them like that swarm bonus that they now have mentioned in the DMG 2024, tacking on like have 3 of them contribute to the attacks to get a +4 bonus to the attack roll. So I should start hitting now. And I'll be able to do, it's 3 characters, so that'd be like 2d8, and then if there's 3 more orcs that are in there, it would end up being about 48 worth of damage that those 6 orcs could be doing to my whoever I hit. And I could divide up that damage between however many targets I want. So if I roll something, I can look real quick. It's like that hit this one, and this one. Of the 4 people, that attack roll hit 3 of them. I can now disperse my dice of damage between them and start attacking the team as a swarm, but me only having to make one roll and resolve all of those at the same time and divide up the damage as I want. So that's something that we've been using in the command system. There's I'll have to see if people are okay with me publishing the playtest, but we did a playtest for the the Rise of the Dragon Queen. The first encounter in the first part of the adventure is there's a town being attacked by the dragon cult. A bunch of kobolds, cultists, dragon, riding lizards, and some fanatic zealots and some dragonborn. So, and there was like maybe 200 of them that were beating up this town that had like 400 some odd people in it. And there's a keep in the middle of it. So your characters are at the edge of town when this starts, and the idea is that you, the way that it's presented in the actual adventures, your individual characters are maneuvering between buildings, trying to dodge attention because you're first level. So you want to get to the keep where your characters can be safe behind the walls, and then start strategizing how can we help this town. But the way that the command system works is that you basically take NPCs and you group them together into a space, and they become your mount. And then your character is inside of that space with them, and all your movement basically moves together, you and your unit, and or your squad. And as you attack, your squad can deal multiple dice of damage and gain bonuses to attack targets that you're fighting with, and your character can either take damage. The character can take damage. You can deal damage to one of the team members, or you can distribute damage across the members of your team. So you have like this flotilla of hit points and attack, a damage dice, and bonus attacks that you can pull the levers on for your character to be safe or to take hits for your team, so you can portray your character in the type of heroics that you want. And you can basically roll around as a flesh tank, attacking squads or higher CR creatures. So you could, like, if you have a flotilla of 9 soldiers that are all CR 1/4, they can take on maybe 1 or 2 ogres, because the ogres can only attack once, maybe twice per turn. And when they hit, at best, they're going to kill 1 person on your flotilla. Meanwhile, your flotilla is dealing like 48 damage to these ogres, and they only have 30 hit points a pop. So they drop after 2 or 3 rounds. And then once there's only 1 left, it's like 3d8 going to a single ogre. You can take them out in like 3 or 4 rounds, which is about the tempo that you want for combat. But that's a higher CR than a level 1 team should be able to punch at. And so the combat ends, and then you make your medicine checks and see if you have enough action economy spread out between you to save everybody on your team. And if you do, then you can take your short rest and you can start recovering hit dice. And then you can just basically tromp around as a larger scale character, like in a 3x3 or 4x4 or like a 10x10 space with 100 soldiers in it. You can scale that up basically infinitely if you wanted to, and then you have to start working about how do you move 500 feet worth of character worth of soldiers per round and still have a per round of combat. So we'd figured all that stuff out, and I won't bore you with all the details. But you can have more than 1 character inside of these groups, and they can also break up their action economy to share with each other, to issue more orders to these troops to make attacks, or or like swarm something, or like tear down that wall or whatever. Blah blah blah. So yeah, being able to bend action economy around is a lot of fun, and group initiative has just absolutely, it's a great narrative, and it's fun that you can actually change the mechanics of how your game runs with the narrative you're currently using. So like I can use that group initiative when your characters are in command, or you can just switch back to normal initiative style when you're just fighting individual creatures in a dungeon. So you can that can remain consistent in your world because you're building these patterns of activity that are different depending on what the task is. So, and like ability checks are the same way. Ability checks can mean different things at different times or different places. Like ability checks in the Bastion system represents multiple people working together, so that's why you have that die, that inspiration die, instead of a proficiency bonus, because I might be performing well in my proficiency, but you might be having an off day. So even though I'm being incredibly efficient at the office, you're just having a BS waste of a time sort of day. So you didn't actually get anything done. So if our business to perform our tasks to maintain the lifestyle of being open as a business each month, if we're going to roll a D6 and we only get a result of a 3, that's because I'm having a banger of a day and you're just getting quagmired in bullshit. So we can't just crack at +6 bonus all the time. There's too many people involved, and that narrative makes sense. But it's the same mechanics of 5e, but it's just using the proficiency die system, which is an optional rule. And like renown and piety, and is basically the same mechanic. One is how much attention do you have of the god that you worship, versus how much authority do you have in a group in an organization of NPCs that you have that you oversee. So it's such a great game engine. There's just enough variety in what you can do so that things feel different, as like different gears, like shifting different gears of like activities that you're performing, like investigation and social encounters versus combat stuff, versus traps. These have different like little, they have different feelings, even though a lot of the mechanics are the same. Anyway, I ramble about that a lot because that's why I like to design for 5e. That's why 5e is such a banger of a game engine. It's simple enough that you grok it quickly. Like, you just intuitively understand how the system works, but it has that level of depth and variation, so you can bend the game to work in any direction that you want with any narrative that you want, and switch it up inside of the same game. So that's the end. There you go. That was the point I was trying to make. So now they have the swarm mechanics in the DMG, I will end up taking time to translate. I will see how well can the squad, the command squad system that we've been developing, see how well that transfers over to the nuances of the swarm, because it's like picking up and translating the Bastion system, like the command of guilds and kingdoms was like introducing all of these new concepts narratively into the game space and then providing rules for them. Now that the Bastion system exists, the narrative is already there. I can just take the mechanics that I know are fun to use and reskin them in the narrative in the Bastion system, which is something I can do on the DMsGuild, and then take the same concept and put it in all my future games on ttrpg that aren't specifically D&D 5e on DMsGuild, because you can't copyright game mechanics, but only the way that you express them. So if I'm using these mechanics but portraying them differently in a different game, they're my mechanics. I can use them however I want, wherever I want. It's just that if I'm framing them in the language of 5e, then I need to frame them in a different language when I leave the DMsGuild, which is great because I've been developing that different language, and I'm looking forward to kickstarting that. We're not there yet. We still have these things to do. We will eventually get to the point where we are done with our work on the DMsGuild, and we will move on to something else. Maybe, I don't know. At some point, I think I'm going to be content and satisfied with the chance to work with the IPs that I love so much, and want to, like, as soon as I want to start creating content in something that isn't specifically connected to a setting of D&D, that's probably when I'm going to start exiting. Like, I love all the MTG stuff, and I got to do that on DMsGuild because they own it. I love Spelljammer, so I could do stuff on Patreon, sure, but I mean, I can put artwork on Patreon anyway. So the proper place to put adventures and design content specifically for Spelljammer, obviously, is on the DMsGuild. But I like space opera, and I like space combat in general, and I love Spelljammer, and so what a great opportunity for me to provide something that's missing in the Spelljammer community, 5e style combat. So that was the intent of that project, and now I can expand off of that into like the mecha stuff and the kaiju stuff, because I don't think there's any satisfying mecha and kaiju stuff for 5e, for D&D specifically, for Spelljammer inside of Dungeons and Dragons specifically. So I want that. So that keeps me on the DMsGuild a little bit longer. I love Eberron. It's my campaign setting of choice in 5e. That kind of keeps me thinking about doing stuff on the DMsGuild some more. So I'll eventually get to a place where I do my own thing. Trademark. We got the trademark in work, so obviously I'm working on it. So trademark is the excuse I use to put off starting it, because, well, I'm still running my first campaign with it. So if I'm gonna make a whole role playing game, I should really make sure that the engine runs from level 1 to done. And so that's what we're doing. We're running an entire campaign from 0 to hero with my home table right now. So that's what happens at 2 o'clock. And then I've got my play test for the martial power system for the DM's Guild at 5 o'clock. And I need to have at least 3 people playing for that to be really meaningful time spent. But it seems like we have, it looks like we have 4 people that are pretty reliable in showing up at this point. So it feels like playtesting will be secure for a while. It'd be great to have more participants, to have like a little bit of rotation possible. But I am thankful for the team that we have assembled. Very, very thankful. And it's fun. Fucking Mega Dungeons are just fun. They're so easy to run. Once you build one, they're just so easy. And like, I love leaving all the specific details out, so that when we start exploring rooms, you can just fill in the details, and it's like the place just starts to, like, you just start making shit up about like what's on the walls or what's on the ceiling and the floors, like what's this alcove for. Like you make all these little spaces and environments and that seem to have a purpose, right? But don't decide what the purpose is until you need to know what its purpose is. And then you end up coming up with all these like weird, interesting ideas that then cascade off of like the more you, then as you continue playing through the adventure and there's more spaces that open up and you're improvising what those spaces are for, you're leaning into like, what have I already established here? And now you can just improv off of that. And so you just end up building just this narrative of just stuff that like you breathe life into the environment, because like you're adding all these little details. They sell the story. It's like there's like this snake god motif that's going on inside this temple. They're lizard men that are worshiping dragons and lizard gods, and all the undead that they're finding are like kobold and lizardmen undead. So like they have reptilian skeletons that are attacking them. And one of the things that they found so far is that there's these alcoves with little prayer seats on them, but there's needles, like stone needles sticking out of the wall, that if you push your face against it, it would blind you. And they have all of these like motifs and images of people being blinded, and then some of them gain wings and ascend upward, and others that lose their arms and they don't get any they lose their arms and legs and don't gain any wings and become these serpentine creatures that then go below. So like there's this like flying dragons are ascended angel type creatures, and like snakes are demonic or evil creature or fallen creatures. So while they're fighting these undead, there's these snakes that are inside of their heads. Like their brains have been replaced like with this nest of snakes. And the really powerful ones have snakes that come out of their mouth like ghasts. Like ghasts have these long proboscis tongues that they can lash people with, and that paralyzes them. Theirs is it's not a tongue, it's a snake. And it can detach from its head and crawl out of its head and attack people independently. So it's really fucking creepy. I think it's creepy and it's fun. But a lot of the narrative about like the details of this cult religion was improvised on the spot during the game, because I knew roughly that this is like some sort of a cult temple, but I don't know. And there's lizardmen because lizardmen fit the CR that I wanted. So that's how that came about. And then the rest of the details is just playing jazz. And that's what's so fun about DMing is improvising that stuff. It's so fun that you do the prep work you do is lay in just enough seeds for you to get the gist of this place. And the longer you DM, the easier it is for you just to bullshit details on the fly. Like a good DM is just really good at bullshitting. Because you don't want the players to ever know when you're making shit up and when this is prepared, because they may approach it differently. And it kind of breaks the narrative for them. Like it pulls them out of immersion a little bit. The more you can stay immersed in this narrative tone, the more they're going to be able to. It's story time, right? And it's almost like campfire stuff. They get to interact and respond to the ghost story. Super fun. Fucking love DMing. Through a big dungeon and so I got to catch up. So group average score indicates yeah. So it also creates natural momentum too. As more enemies disappears, the players' turns become faster. So nice. Yeah, it sounds like you just know how to tempo. That's great. Through a big dungeon and night at the start of my campaign when I was using the typical Eberron Sharn setting. It was fun to add so that the players get a playground. Yeah, absolutely. Playground. Good wording. It was super cool with a puzzle to unlock the deeper areas. Yeah, I love having like little puzzle things or like a couple different things I like to use is it requires mana because I use a spell point system, right? So you just have the stack of mana instead of specific spell slots. And like one of the main complaints that DMs will have is like it's so hard to burn down a character's resources over the course of like a 4-hour session because they just have so much fucking resources. Like you can like have like the doors the doors that they're going through right now require mana to open because they don't know, or they can try to spend time to pick it open, but if they do, it's going to like take a point of mana. If they don't, if the door is fully operational and they don't want to pick it, it's going to cost them like a 3rd level spell, so like 3 mana. But like across 3 characters, 1 mana apiece, that's reasonable. But now you're starting to eat their resources without having to put them in combat. It's just casual trap and interaction stuff. But it's a resource you can burn down. You can do that with hit points, which then translates into spell slots being spent to heal your character. You can also do it with hit dice. You could have like a blood sacrifice required or something, and that's going to cost X amount of hit dice, which then ends up eating the amount of hit points they can heal during a short rest, which then translates then to them spending more mana on healing spell slots. So hit points really runs the game. And hit points and healing, and both of those resources, those are your most abundant resources: spell slots and hit points. So burning those down by having like some areas the doors don't work, so they have to spend time muscling their way through the door, or in some instances like literally breaking it apart with hammers. So they picked this place up, like the orcs that had arrived here first and had started exploring, ran into a bunch of undead and ended up losing a bunch of their guys. So the orcs were fatigued, and then the team came in and attacked and killed more orcs. So they were even further fatigued. And at some point they're like, "Look, you've killed enough of our troops. We're just going to give this place up." But our war chief is trapped in at a deeper point of the dungeon. He got cut off from the exit, and the undead are laying siege on him right now. If you can rescue him, we'll give you half the loot that we dug out of this place already. You don't have to fight to get it. There you go. And the team had to have a conversation with themselves about, do we just kill these guys? Maybe we should just kill them and take all the treasure. But you don't get any experience points for killing creatures. You get experience points for taking treasure. So all they need is the treasure. So they could get a couple thousand gold worth of treasure that they need to gain a level without having to fight those orcs by basically taking their bribe and not having to risk it. So yeah, okay, great, we'll do that. They succeed at rescuing the war chief. They find a bunch of undead that are creepy as fuck. They find a little bit about the temple. And they're like, okay, well, that's a 4-hour session. Let's just get the fuck out of here. So they bail back out the dungeon the way that they came in, that they'd already cleared a path from, for them to launch a long rest, resolve the orc stuff, and then take ownership of the facility starting tonight. They can start delving deeper. And Mega Dungeons are so great because once you like create a safe point inside of a deeper level of dungeon that you can that you've already secured all the exits from, that becomes a new set point where you can take long rests, and you can start just accumulating your gold in your save point. And then when you want to gain a level, extract all that gold to take it back with you back to communities to disperse the gold, and then travel back to the dungeon to continue if it isn't conquered. And since you've been away, the dungeon bubbles up from lower levels and starts to fill in. So it's like basically every zone that they clear, like you have like a zone of like 5 to 15 rooms. So like around 10 rooms. A zone of 10 rooms that the team can clear realistically in a block of 3 hours. So you go through the zones as the team clears them out. They then go back home to level up. And then when they come back, each week that they've been gone, one of the zones fills back in. And as the characters gain level, they're going to need more time away to gain their levels. So it gives the dungeon more time to bubble higher level stuff up. So they'll get into terrain that they're familiar with, but the creatures that are there will be unpredictable. So they have to then fight their way back down to a safe point. And it's not gonna bubble up as in like every room is populated again, but there's a random chance of wandering encounters, and it's on a D6, and every room that they go through that they had previously cleared out from on their way back in, it's a D6 plus one. It's one per room on a D6. So every 6 rooms that they go through, they're pretty much guaranteed to have a wandering encounter. And that wandering encounter is going to be from something that's bubbled up from lower, that's exploring new open space that it can access. It's like, oh, these apartments cleared out. Let's see what's been left behind. Adventurers. And, hilarity ensues. But you don't gain any experience points for killing those monsters, so you don't get a lot of experience points. Because they don't carry a lot of treasure climbing their way up there just to explore what's going on. So you want to try to get your way through them and punch your way through those wandering encounters quickly, so you can get to your new set points and take your long rest, so you can begin new levels of the dungeon quicker. So like you reset your point on your first day into the dungeon to resecure it, and then you start pushing deeper. And it's just such a fun narrative. It's like a methodical way. Like, I'm experienced at fighting in dungeons and going into these things and killing monsters. This is a protocol and a tempo we can safely maintain for our party to proceed in this task. And it just feels so militarized. I love it. It just feels, because it's regimented and structured. It feels like SWAT teams, right? Or like like special operations sort of teams. I love that feeling of dungeon delving. It's so fun. And for anyone out there that is listening to this in the future that hasn't had that, it's a similar feeling to like playing XCOM or like Fire Emblem even. But everyone, instead of controlling all the characters on the team round by round, each player at the table controls one of them. So you decide, where we're going to go on the overworld map that leads us to an encounter, and then we each control our characters to resolve that, and then we go into the dungeon that we're trying to get through, and then we, as a team, decide where we navigate through that dungeon through to get to the boss fight, and then we decide how we help each other to survive the boss fight, what role we play. Are you healing? Are you doing, strike damage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. Because it can be that folks' set point, or like their point of reference for games is now video games, not role-playing games. It used to be like video games. Yeah. This is like a role-playing game. Check this out. But now it's like, these role-playing games are like video games. Because everyone that used to play D&D, that became a developer ended up making D&D computer games. And now there's been people that have been alive playing RPGs online that have never played an actual role-playing game that don't understand that it's, you know, that's its origins. That's where it came from. And it's not a solo experience, it's a group experience. You know, for those that don't know. But I suspect like 100% of my audience are folks that understand. And that's not true. Sometimes I'll get stray MTG fans that, no, almost all of them have at least played D&D once. It's hard to, yeah. Yep. So that's happening today as well. So I have a very busy day. Very, very busy. Let's fill that in here. Yeah, that feels good. No, that's too dark. I need to pull away from that and here. Oh, that was a rant, wasn't it? Man, I ranted. Oh, that was a rant, wasn't it? Yeah, you're just you know your tribe, my man. You just know your tribe. That's all it is. The thing is, if sports are your hobby, like watching sports is your hobby, you aren't really engaged. You're watching. Sorry, sports lovers. Don't mean to hate on you, but it's a passive task. Your culture's around watching heroes be heroic. The reason why D&D players crap on those type of people so much is because even though we're not actually out on the field fighting, neither are you, but at least at the table, I'm imagining how awesome it would be. I mean, I'm all for tribalism like everyone else is. And you gotta be a fan of something, sure. But so much more of my identity is wrapped into designing, like building and being part of a team and cooperative experiences like that. My identity is like team builder first. And role-playing people just have a natural proclivity to towards community building, because you have to have people participating for the game to work. So it forces you to interconnect the network more. It's interesting. It's really interesting. That feels really, really good. Because again, this is a 5x10 space that we're looking at here. So like you would realistically maybe zoom into here, and at this level, it's still pretty damn good detail. When you're designing a composition, you can think about what's the resolution, like how closely is somebody going to look at this. Like the artwork on like a Magic the Gathering card is like a 2x3 inch space, and the amount of artwork that's packed into that 2x3 inch space is typically like at minimum of 24 by 36, but probably a 48 by 72 inch painting. Like if they're actually painting on canvas because they're planning on selling it at some point in the future, 48 by 72 inch canvas. That is a huge amount of detail that you can pack into that small little space, which is why Magic the Gathering is like so highly regarded for its art, because it's really fucking good detailed art in a very little space. But you normally don't need that level of depth in just casual RPG artwork. You just need it to look good. So taking that into mind, you can use the resolution of the page that they're looking at. Like this is a 4 by 5 inch space. So, and it's not nearly as detailed as Magic the Gathering is. It's like maybe 2/3 of the way to what you would actually want to have on an MTG painting. So it's only taken me a slew of hours to make this. So we're almost done with the tree here. I still have this bark expansion where the limb snapped off, but now that soft pale meat inside of the bark is just absolutely standing out as as something that's gone awry. But that's just its own separate layer. So I can put that here, and then I'm going to go down to here, bump, and then do that there. Open that up. Oh, I've got a lot of layers going on here. It's pushing off the page. That is a lot of layers. God, is there a way to make this more compact? That would be nice. Anyway, well, we're almost off the edge, so let's take all of that and then duplicate that layer and then merge it. See, now it's just a single layer we can cut through. So now we can go in and we can bond all this stuff together. Yeah, thanks. I'm very, very pleased. So, okay, what we want to do is drop out. I want to drop out of using that tool. I want to go to my guitar pick, which is really, really good at sculpting, like cleaning up edges. So here's my wedge smudge blend tool, or the guitar pick. Just to demonstrate, that's what the shape looks like. Oh, this is a fun one. Hold on, let's go out here to someplace blank. There, check this out. So I made this brush. It has a hard shaped tip, and then it curves and it feathers into a smoother and smoother gradient into then the core. So if I push with this end, if I push with this end of the brush, see, I chisel into and can pull pixels around. But if I use the softer edge, it smudges. So I can blend out. It's a fun tool. It's a super fun tool. I was talking about providing my brush kit for people that are interested in artwork. So I'm at 2,886 hours of viewed content per 365-day block, and I have 503 subscribers. So once I get to 3,000 hours of content and 500 subscribers, I gain first tier access of sponsor on YouTube. So that is the bar that I'm setting for me to provide those brushes for free. What a minimal interest perk to an audience of mostly just role-playing enthusiasts. I think I have a couple artists that run around inside here. But I'm just going to start trimming this up. Oop, wait. Squatters go away. Tree goes away. Yeah, there's my line art. I need to grab that. Duplicate that layer. Duplicate that layer. Drop it down into the folder. Merge. There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. Back on task. With pin access. Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. Oh, absolutely. All my brush, most of my, like, this is just a round brush I'm using to erase. So I use this wedge tool to sculpt and push, and I use just right now I'm just using a simple round brush to erase because I don't have to worry about what directions it's facing as I'm working through these curves, just to trim them down. I'm gonna make this foliage disappear for now, so I can see what I'm working with. Yeah, I want to start cleaning up these edges. That's where we're at. I like the foliage, I already like how the foliage sits in the background, but we also want to have a front layer. I think we might have some, like, we want to have a front layer that overlays stuff, but we won't know exactly how that foliage is going to look until we finish the squatting characters in the trees. And then we can start seeing, like, how can foreground foliage help balance the composition a little bit better. So we're like Bob Ross, we're working in layers. So that way we can make sure that the things that need to be seen can always be seen. But I don't need to see the squatters right now. And I don't need to see that because we're just doing silhouette cleanup work right now. But like I want this stump to fade into the foliage, so I can grab when I have the brush like this, the leading edge smudges and the back edge drags more solid, so I can have like this fading effect happen with the limb as it recedes into the background. What did I do there? I just dumped my windows? Shit. There it is. What am I trying to do right now? Hold on. I was trying to press a button for a reason. So, I was trying to change the percent of pull. Let's take it up to 100. 100's too much. I want to take it like around, I want to say like around 90. There. 90 feels good. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be a good idea for me to temporarily mask this over with black. That way I can make sure, nope, wrong layer, Kearney. Come on. Come on, buddy. Come on back. There you go. There. That way I can be sure I'm trimming away the brighter highlights. Let's go to So we'll be doing this for the rest of the session. Oh, I should set a timer. I haven't used a timer at all today. Yeah. The pin rotation tool is absolutely critical with that. That's how you can create that fractal feeling by rotating the brush, and then reducing the size of the brush as you turn it. It creates like this just a natural fractal spin. It's super fucking cool. I'll do that here in a moment, but I'm just setting a clock. So I got another 20 minutes this morning, and then I got to log out, do some home space stuff, and then I'll be back on at 11. Yeah, I'll be back on at 11 to work on the Bastion system some more, and I'll basically have 2.5 hours to work on that. So from 11 till 1:30, I'll do that, and then I'll log out for the day, and I'll have my home game with my coworkers, and then after that, I'll have a little time to do some additional prep for the Martial Power playtest, assuming that the Martial Power playtest proceeds tonight as planned. I'll be ready for that at 5:30. And then if ever a game, if ever the game falls apart, I instead just stream. I'm being nitpicky right here. That brush should be, here we go. This is the one I should be using, like that. Oh, here, I'll show you that cascade effect I was talking about. I mean, that's horrible, but that's effectively the effect, You can fractal brushes that way. It's really fun. And just depending on what kind of brush you're using, there's no limit to what you could potentially be doing with that. Oops. Yeah. What's up? Trying to relearn GIMP. Oh my god, I haven't used GIMP in fucking. I used GIMP. GIMP was the second program that I used. The first one was Corel Draw, and that thing was just. No, it's Corel Paint, and it's big draw at the time in the early the year 2000 was like it duplicates materials, like you could actually like pile paint up on top of your canvas like in 3 dimensions, and it was clunky. I did not like I don't like any of the interfaces in Corel at all. I don't even know if Corel exists anymore. I just their user interface, I hated it. So I switched to GIMP. It was free. I didn't want to buy another art program to find out that I didn't like it, so I fucked around in GIMP for a while. But I think the problem I had with GIMP was I didn't like layer management, and I am a layer junkie. So I think that's where my brain started. Oh, and their color picking tools. I was having issues with. So I got frustrated with them and ditched it. So then I found Photoshop, and at the time, Photoshop was like everything is super easy. It costs money, but it does everything that you want it to do. Everything I wanted it to do. So that became a pretty natural pick for me. There. So by using black like this, when I put the foliage back in, the branch fades into the foliage because it goes from dark to fade out to light. But if I have light framing around it, like I still have up here, it sits in it weird. It just doesn't seem natural over here. It's undone. So using the black background helps create a negative space for me to be able to accurately read how this is going to be without having the foliage getting in the way. Just I get so, because I don't see any color, I'm only working on grayscale. My eye gets easily distracted by surrounding environmental stuff. So like parsing things down like this, separating the layers out so I'm only dealing with one element at a time is a good way for me personally to keep things organized. Make sure that what I'm intending to do is what actually ends up being transmitted. So the light edge on here, the quote unquote upside is appropriate. I want that there, so that's good. And then this just fades off. Now we hit the page border here, but I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be doing the page border, so I want to push past that. I should probably actually conceal the filigree for now, because we'll need to end up finishing that when once the page layouts are done. We'll be shifting into just doing artwork, including off-screen. Like right now, my off-screen time is spent trying to process. Here, I'll show you. Is processing these pages. This is where we got. So when we last left off, visiting this document here online, I had just finished cleaning up the Carnwood, all the random encounters. Like these are where the maps are going to drop in. So we'll end up spending some time dropping maps in here on screen. Here's an opportunity for potentially an illustration, or probably just another map that will create like a partially rotten forest map here, possibly. And then we drop down into the mist. So last week we spent time starting to create the icons, the illustrations for the cemetery, the gatehouse, and the flooded fortress, and how they sit in a triangle with each other. Well, I had to rebuild the pages because I was having a hard time parsing the narrative down here in lower pages. It just didn't feel right, so I needed to redo the structuring of the intro and then the manifest zone, and like how each of them are being presented. I had to modify the language a little bit in here. And so then I finished off the environmental conditions page for the manifest zone. These things are a fucking bitch to build, man. Getting the weather, the visibility, travel conditions, unique terrain. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. The weather conditions that you're dealing with, the visibility that you have inside of the manifest zone, travel speeds inside of the manifest zone, the unique terrain environments that are on the map, like the foul water that can poison you, the sloping terrain from the level into the sloping terrain, the ferric vines that can slash. It's plants that deal slashing, piercing damage. The Vulpina Lotharia gives you the sickened condition, which we described above. And then the wandering encounters, transitioning into part 3 once you find an underground passage, and then like what resting is like in here. All that stuff is stuff I had to parse out and make sure that fit on the page cleanly, which is where most of my headaches are coming from, is making, because when we actually designed the document, like when we designed the adventure, we just made it as a Google Doc. Single column Google Doc, just a continuous flow from front to end. And then once we had all those ideas built out, and Stuart Bros did an amazing job in structuring and editing and proofing the text, and he's like, here's what you have, go build. Now I have to build it, and this formatting that we're using is this 5x10 column space is a very restricting frame to put information inside of, whether it's text, icons, maps, or just illustrations, tables, charts. I have to have all these things fit inside of 5x10 spaces. And that's a real fucking challenge. That's a real challenge. So it's forcing me to take the post-edit work and then rebuild it so it can fit inside of these spaces in bite-sized pieces of information. Taking as much of what already exists, leaving it in place, but then seeing how I can break up and trim out the material, pull pieces from one block paragraph into the next. So I'm keeping the language, but I'm basically having to like jigsaw the edited text into different shapes so that they fit on the page, which means I need to organize the information differently, and sometimes I have to add to it or get rid of things. It's a hell of a challenge, but I got, so this past week I got these pages, and this set of random encounters for the Red Wolf Patrol and the familiar threat. And I was able to figure out that I can fit the Undead Amok page over here with another a good-sized Manifest Zone map, and then here I can break up into this is the Sinkhole Chamber. So I was able to divide up. This is an external and underground like mini dungeon, like a lair basically. So I was able to parse that stuff out. And then we have the Tree of Woe that we were able to parse out because that's a big map as well. So we got a bunch of big maps that we're going to be dropping in here. And I should have I should have the Tree of Woe, the Sinkhole Chamber, and Undead Amok. I should have those resolved probably today or tomorrow. And then we get into the cemetery. But I'm going to actually start with the gatehouse at the back because I want to start with the gatehouse to figure out what needs to be there so that as I go through the fortress and the cemetery, like the gatehouse is the last point that your characters can get to before they go underground, and it's a social encounter with the Captain Carl Follis. Carl is the captain of the Red Wolf mercenaries and basically the first boss that you really need to deal with. But it's a social encounter. You don't have to get that far into it, but that is like if you get that far, it's probably because you're interested in a social encounter, not combat or exploration. So I want to make sure I have the language framed properly there so that when we go into the fortress is the first checkpoint between the Manifest Zone and the gatehouse. The gatehouse is central command, while the fort is a staging ground that's closer to the Manifest Zone for them to basically send patrols out from. And then the cemetery is a side location that's been spawning undead that needs attention that the troops go to try to patrol it, but it's a fucking mess there. So like it's dangerous. It happens that the way that the Manifest Zone works is that when undead arise in the Manifest Zone, they want to leave the Manifest Zone into Eberron to start spreading misery. They don't want to stay in the Manifest Zone. Creatures are coming from the Nexus. It's just constantly spawning new monsters, and as the ritual continues, they become more and more powerful monsters until the ritual completes and a gate opens to Mabar, and Yugoloth can just start coming through. Demons, actual like high CR demons that are like significant threats. So that's the process that happens here. That's the goal of the artifact. The necromancers think that they're just stabilizing a Manifest Zone that is powerful enough to actually shape the environment, so they can start harvesting these rare materials from the Manifest Zone for magical components and empowering magic items, right? Using the Bastion language that we just established. So that's how easily that Bastion system threads into running adventures. They are attempting to establish a planar portal that is empowering the area with extra planar energy that allows them to harvest unnatural minerals and plant life to be able to create potions, poisons, and magic item material to empower magic items to become necrotic items and stuff, as well as recruiting undead and demons to be able to bolster their troops. So they're using each other, and the artifact will win. If the ritual completes, the artifact wins, and the wizard becomes a Yugoloth and becomes the gatekeeper for that Manifest Zone. Basically, I need a wizard powerful enough to create this so that you have enough mana power to be converted into an Ultraloth, the highest tier Yugoloth that exists. That's what these artifacts are designed to do, is create ascended beings that represent that plane of existence by harvesting powerful mortal souls. So, but that's kind of like the Warlock conversation. So we're going to do the gatehouse first, and then the flooded fort, and then the cemetery. And I need to restructure the cemetery because some things that were keyed in as the location prepared encounters, like the secret passage, and the victim, the NPC victim in the cemetery. Those were set as assumed to happen, but I need to restructure them so they're optional, so that the DM has more narrative control. It's just the way that I have it written right now. It doesn't lean into that narrative control idea. It's just there. It's like, if you want to use this, here it is, but it's inside of the prepared encounters. So it's like if a DM isn't paying attention, there's automatically going to feed a secret passage into the Nexus chamber that will then bypass the fortress and the gatehouse altogether, and which is great if you want to run a one-shot. But if your goal is not to run a one-shot, I want to make sure it's partitioned away from the rest of the content so you don't accidentally one-shot your own adventure. So like, it's important that I do that. So that's going to take a little time. That also means I need to restructure how a little bit about how the encounters are set up in all of the plots, all the alternate plot hooks. So I just gave myself more work, but it's going to make the book infinitely better as a result of doing it. It just makes it, the information doesn't flow the way it's supposed to. And I didn't see the error in logic until I started breaking down the document into individual components like this. As part of the larger flow, when we edited it, it made sense. But now that I'm looking at how it actually gets paged through and how it actually interacts with the DM, I now see that there's a flaw in the design that I have to fix, which is what's awesome about both doing the layouts, the actual text, and doing the artwork. All these things work together for me to be able to find what's the best way for me to be able to visually express this experience to the person that's going to be narrating it. And so that's why we spend a lot of time breaking down all the information. So it's not necessarily hand-holding, it's just organizing it so it's easily digestible. So you don't have to think so much when you move from, so you can think more about navigating from one part of the adventure to the other, and how to help lead the characters to those different points, than trying to figure out what the fuck is the adventure trying to tell me. If I can just be really good about the adventure telling you what's going on, that allows you to navigate these different plot threads that you can maneuver through the adventure in whatever way you want. So I'm sure I'm going to find more efficient ways to do this in the future, but this is my first adventure. So obviously it's going to be overly verbose, and it's going to be incredibly thorough, and it could probably be more efficient. But from an artistic point of view, I like how all the things feed into each other, and how the visual elements are reinforcing the text that are involved with it. So I'm rambling. Let me get back to work. Because at this point I'm just staring at the screen and talking about shit. So. But I'm excited. This is exciting to me, and I'm looking forward to doing more adventures in the future. I want to do another adventure in this same sort of style, where it's like it's got the three parts that you can access, and like you can have different plot hooks that lead you into the adventure, and depending on how events play out. Hold on. Disable the layer mask. That's the last thing I needed to do. There we go. Okay, good. Now I'm on point. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this weirding? There. Like that. There we go. Oh, the squirrels are out today. I can hear them screeching at the dumpster. That's wonderful. I can throw out some pumpkin seeds. Squirrels like pumpkin seeds. Squirrels also like crushed walnuts. Go figure. Things that grow in trees? Well, pumpkin seeds, I suppose, yeah, grounds jump to the, squirrels get to the ground and dig up seeds and stuff all the time. So if they can find a stack of them that are above the ground, they don't have to work at digging at them. Yay! Squirrels are so fucking fun. I love squirrels. There, what's up? So you explained, I too usually find the more you just make the areas make sense and how they function without the players, it helps to connect them all. Yeah, exactly. Your characters are disrupting activities. So if the DM knows what the activities are happening in a location, it doesn't matter when the players show up because they know what's going on. And then they can just adapt to, they can react to the players, because the players are the random element. You already know what the villain is trying to achieve and what their henchman is up to and who's scared of it and what monsters have been unleashed and blah blah blah. Yeah, once you know all that stuff, it just runs itself. It just runs itself. That's the value of prep. And I am a heavy, like I was talking about earlier, I'm a massive improvisationist. I don't need a lot of prep, but I need something. I need to have an idea about like what's the vibe, or like what's the goals, or I need to have a general sense of what's going on. And it can be very vague, but as long as I have an idea about what's going on when I go into a place, I can just riff off of it and make it my own immediately and just let it fly. We had 2 separate DMs run this adventure before it was edited. And at that time, it was still modular and toolkit enough that both of them were able to just grab the different plot hooks that they liked, blend them together. At one point, one of the DMs was taking alternate adventuring teams that were following different plot hooks to be adversaries inside of the adventure, and like it lasted like 6 sessions. It's awesome. It's just awesome. Yeah, so there was me and 2 other DMs were running this, and there was like maybe 6 or 7 different groups, and each time we were able to approach the adventure in different ways, and what was needed was just available in the adventure already as an answer. So it's very verbose. There's a lot going on, but it's all broken up so that it becomes self-referential, which is what I think new content needs to be. Again, in the future, I'm sure I'll find more efficient ways to say more with less words. Somehow, I'm sure I'll find that, but I don't have that level of skill yet. So this is my first go at building my own adventure. So like I was saying, I want to do another one that has like the variable plots and like different ways to get to where you're supposed to get to, and different factions, how they're going to approach things differently, and how to have multiple factions running around inside of the same. It's going to be a monk temple, like a Way of the Four Elements sort of monk temple that deals with like cold, the cold element damage, and it's at the top of a frozen volcano, and a rival monk tradition wants to steal the secrets from this frozen temple, and so there's a raid that happens in town, and your characters are there. So in one perspective, your team could be in charge of the raid, so that you're going to be the ones that are actually attacking the temple. So we'll have the temple prior to the raid, and some plot hooks, like the default plot hook that we used when we ran this I actually did a Let's Play, 2-session, a Let's Play example of how the color mana system works. And I created this adventure in Eberron to demonstrate how color mana works. And in that scenario, it was a team of 4 players, and they were 6th level. And the plot hook that they had was that they were invited there by one of their relatives, and one of them, this is their hometown. So like it was after the last war, they were coming home to reestablish life out of the military. And when they get there, this temple's at the top of this frozen volcano. It's a fishing community, it's like a crabber. It's the Arctic Circle north of Moorhold and Karnath, and it's actually just north of here, like 600 miles, but of like where this adventure takes place, ironically. But it's in glacial area, right? So they're all crab fishermen, and it's always winter up there. And it's super fucking cold. Great place for a cold damage monk temple, right? I mean, it just makes sense. And it was so the backstory here is that it's a frozen, an inert volcano that froze over because these cold monks, monks of the Frozen Heart. There you go. Frozen Heart is a pretty generic title, but whatever. These monks of Frozen Heart, they actually attacked the volcano. It was the home, the throne of a fire elemental hundreds of years ago, and so these Frozen Heart monks came in and basically it was an evil elemental. So the actions are justified. They basically raided the lair and defeated the evil fire elemental, which then made the volcano go inert. And now fishing communities have formed up around it because there's good crabbing there because of all the volcanic rock under the water has created like this cold water coral community. So there's shitloads of crab that are all creeping around in there. So it's great. It's great fishing. So now that the volcano has been disabled, it's a safe place to build a community, and that's where your characters are from. So the last wars ended, they're heading home, and they get there in time to realize that there's other people that have retired, and now there's a resource grab happening around different points of magic that are established in the civilian world that are now getting under the eye of, we're highly skilled combatants in a world of magic, and this place holds power. And I no longer have access to power through the military. I'm a civilian now. And I'm a little broken because of all of the stuff that we've been doing in the war for the past 500 years. So I'm going to attempt to do a resource grab so I can remain powerful to feel safe. And so this rival monk temple, these rival monks come in to steal the secrets from the Frozen Heart, and their biggest artifact that the Frozen Heart has is a crystal that the fire elemental is trapped inside of. So they keep it in storage in their archives, so that if it leaves the volcano, it dies, and so they lose the power that they gained from it. That they're using it as a power source. So these Frozen Heart guys aren't good guys either. They're actively torturing this fire elemental to create mana for themselves to use. And this rival temple has realized that's what they're doing. And it's like, well, if we take over this temple, we can gain that power. If we try to take the stone away, the elemental will die. But we can at least then take over the temple, and that starts a turf war between the Frozen Hearts and I forgot the name of the rival temple, but all of their techniques are stolen techniques from other guilds, other temples. So it doesn't actually have its own style. It's like a rogue. So like there's a mix of rogues, warlocks, and monks that are this rival gang, as it were, and they steal secrets as invocations, traditions, techniques, and now that we're building the Martial Powers book, maneuvers that their members can learn. So when you run across NPCs that are part of this secret stealing cult, you can have a variety of different type of like character subclass features that you can add to the NPCs that they're fighting. So there's like a lot of variety. But you could be part of that guild. That raiding temple with the objective of stealing the stone, or you could be family members and you find out this is happening. Like your brother is part of that temple, and you find out that it's under attack, so you have to race up the mountain, the frozen glacier, to get there to try to help. And there's different ways you can get there, either inside the volcano, along the outside of the volcano, like climbing a glacier, or there's a junked out airship that happens to be a war, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a museum display of because in my campaigns the airships are basically slow Spelljammer ships. You don't have to be in House Cannith specific or House whatever. I forget the fucking name. I don't use dragon houses like at all. I so rarely use dragon houses in my adventures. I don't even know their goddamn names. But yeah, you don't have to have a specific dragon mark to be able to pilot an airship. It's just a spelljamming ship. Anyone can do it. So there's a junked out one that was like a pre-military effort that an old artificer has as something that he tinkers with. Like he's been tinkering with trying to get the engine up and running again, like how to rebuild a spelljamming helm from scratch. And by the time your player characters get there, he's figured it out, but it's inefficient. So to make it run for 10 minutes, it takes 1 mana per minute to run, but it only takes 10 minutes to get to the top of the glacier if you use it. So if you can jump start it, you can pilot it to the top of the mountain for the cost of 10 mana, which is like the 2 3rd level spells and a 4th level spell on a team that has 6th level characters. Like that's expensive for them to do it, but it's fast. So if they want to charge in there without a lot of mana, but get there quickly to maybe make a difference, that's a choice they have to make of expending their resources to expedite them getting there. Otherwise, they have to take the long way, and by the time they get there, the temple has been taken over, and now they have to lay siege to take it back. And that changes the adventure. You're either sieging the place to take it over, or you're sieging the place to take it back. And if you're using the infiltrator, the only way you can actually infiltrate the place is by going inside the mountain through the internal tunnels where there's monsters and traps. So if that's the route that you choose, your player, if you're like good guys, like if you're from that community, you can use that path if you know about it, and you would know about it. So it's like you can choose that option. It's dangerous, but it might be a way for us to get in unnoticed, but they don't know that the raiders use that path. So they're going to run across the raiders that way. Or they can go the external route up the side of the mountain, which has it's just a stairway, but it's just like a 3,000 foot stairway. So it takes a while to climb it, but you can do it. But there's guards and there's yetis and stuff like that you might have to mess around with. So like there's different types of there's different types of play you can run with it. So it's modular like this one is, but it's just like a very different motif. So in my head, I just see one temple is just yeah, exactly. Oh, I love elements. As much as I love Magic the Gathering as a Magic paradigm, because MTG is just too fucking cool. And that Wizard of the Coast owns both D&D and MTG now. It's for 20 years, but you know, the color mana system being used in 5e is just so fucking cool. I love that. And but I can use those same mechanics, that same paradigm system of defining magic spells and stuff. I can do that with elements too, which we started to do with the Elemental Key book that we came out that we need to rebuild. And expanding that to work with the martial power system as well. It basically creates an elemental paradigm that you can use for spellcasting and stuff, and I love that. I absolutely love it. But yeah, generally elements in MTG, elements are generally blue, red, and green, which is a great little. What is that Naya? I can never. I always have a hard time remembering the names of the wedges and shards, but yeah, you can basically have elementals You can basically have an effective elemental system in Magic the Gathering by just focusing on blue, red, and green. Yeah, well, I mean, blue is like water and air, and red is earth and fire, and then green is like a blending of them, or like the feeling of cold, right? Like sunshine, weather. That's more like green. So you can get the elements, like core elements. You can get away with those with just 2 colors. And then you can add in like the druid, like the druidness of it, or like the nature of it, like the evolution or the growth or the cycles. That's all a very green vibe. So between those 3 colors, you can have an effective elemental system, but you need to know the color magic system first to lean into colors as elements. So it's just better just to create a 4-element system of air, earth, fire, and water, and then have like the in-between stuff like fire and water is steam, water and earth is like mud, stuff like that. Earth and fire is magma, right? So you can have these in-between steps that don't have like their own elements. It's not like black mana versus white mana. You don't have like mud mana, but it allows you to have a temple or a sect mix different elements together. So like I can have a temple that has both air and earth. Like that would be dust. So I can create dustmen, like Planescape dustmen could be represented by those 2 elements in contrast to each other. So like the idea of air and earth, like your breath and your body disintegrating when you die, that's a very dust sort of aesthetic. So now you start getting this necromancy vibe around the idea of dust. So it creates really interesting narratives, and it like you can, by adding elemental themes to everything, you can like take the necromancer, like those are dustmen. Like if you're going to animate a corpse, you're going to use this black dust that they use, that when they pour it onto the face of somebody that's died, their eyes open and they awaken. Like that's a fun narrative that you can play that makes a distinct system of magic that I would absolutely not put in D&D. I would export to be my own Kickstarter project, which is one of the things I'm waiting for coming on through with my trademark. So that stuff is in the works. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't invested all this time in building out the MTG color magic system and like understanding how a paradigm works with like resource management and mechanics in a game system. Like this has been such, I'm learning my craft while building it, which is what art is. So game design, I've effectively been able to make art, game design artwork for me, and this like small indie project couture design kind of just leans into the aesthetics of like, I'm doing this for the art of it, right? Not to sound holier than anyone. I want to make shitloads of money doing this. Hopefully this will be a better retirement plan than risking that billionaires will take my money away to profit themselves. Like that feels unstable. But building a game company, that feels so much more secure. What time is it? Oh shit, it's 8:42. Okay, I gotta bounce for the day. Or for now anyway. The Commander deck is mostly D&D theme. Nice, red, green, blue. See how you can build themes like that? It's so fucking fun. All right, that's where we're at today. When we come back tomorrow, we're gonna continue working on cleaning up these. I mean, these are looking really good. I'm really happy with how this is coming along. Let's blip that out of the way, and let's put this back in. And let's put our filigree back in so it frames things. Yeah, this is coming along. I can darken up over here a little bit with some more foliage, but I'm liking how this is melting into the environment. This is being done properly. Oh, I need to add that filter back in. There we go. That's where we're at for now. Yep. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to log out. I'll be back maybe like at 11ish. And I'll continue working on Bastions. I will work on Complications for a while, and then I'm going to play some D&D with my coworkers. And then I'll be off for the rest of the day, but I'll be running the Martial Powers playtest on my Discord channel. So if you think that shit's cool, swing on by. I'll catch hopefully some of you guys in a few hours. Otherwise later. Yeah. Thank you, Donald. It's good times, man. See you guys on the flip. Bye.